SoundCartel.
From SoundCartel, I'm Nicole Goodman, and this is Business Essentials Daily. Performance management can be a lengthy and often uncomfortable experience, so it's often delayed. But conflict coach and author Genevieve Hawkins offers some practical help. She has what she calls a 5 C's approach to help guide managers through the process. And as Genevieve explains to Jeff Waters, emotional maturity and empathy can help overcome some of the hurdles.
I think that from a leadership point of view, well, in fact, just from a human point of view, people don't tend to like conflict.
No.
And there's an immediate sense when we talk about performance management of, this is going to be hard and confrontational, and it makes me uncomfortable. And also often we feel, but I've got so many other things that I need to do. The amount of time it takes, is it really, really worth it? Do I really want to come in and face into this conversation with someone who's not doing what I want them to do? So, and then often what happens is the can gets kicked down the road. The people go, I'll get to it, but I just want to deal with other stuff first. And then it gets worse.
It does get put off a lot, doesn't it? Oh,
it does.
We'll deal with this next week. We're too busy right now. How do you jump that hurdle?
So I always say to people, you've got to start with this first principle that people don't come to work to deliberately do the wrong thing. Now, I'll perhaps put a caveat on that, saying unless they're an absolute sociopath and want to cause havoc. But outside that small percentage that deliberately want to cause a problem, the majority of people do not come to work to do the wrong thing. And so one of the things that you need to really ask yourself, so this is like before you decide I'm going to go through performance, like a formal process with someone, is you need to ask yourself some questions. So I talk about the 5 C's. There's these questions that you need to ask yourself to go, have I done the best by this person before I then face into the conversation I might have with them? So the first one is clarity. Have I given this person absolute clarity on my expectations? Because sometimes we just assume what people are doing is the right thing or that they know what I'm expecting of them. But if I haven't been absolutely crystal clear on expectations, then how can I expect people to deliver to them? The second one is actually, is this person capable of this job? And this is a question not about, not just looking, well, clearly they're not capable because they're not doing the job, but actually going back to, did I put the right person into this role? So did I make a mistake in the recruitment process and I put someone in a role that they actually aren't capable of? And that's my problem, not their problem. The third question is capacity. And so it's like, am I being reasonable in the amount of time I'm giving to someone and the resources I'm giving to someone to actually deliver on the job? Or am I just blindly ignoring and just going, I don't care how much time it takes, just get it done, and not realising what that impact is? The fourth one is sitting there going, am I actually providing the right environment from a coaching point of view? So am I creating an environment where it's actually okay to fail, and that when you fail, there's curiosity from me and there's encouragement from me so that you're actually learning where those guardrails are and how to move forward with it? And the fifth one is, have there been clear consequences? And the consequences are both positive and negative. So if you've been doing great work, have I actually been crystal clear on the feedback, this is great, and why it's great, and what it is specifically you're doing that's great? And if it isn't great, do you actually know that it isn't great? Like, have I actually stopped and gone, hey, Jeff, let's have a bit of a chat here because this is this was the sales numbers you were supposed to be hitting and they haven't been hit. And so if I'm just going, you know that there's a problem and you're going to fix it, and I haven't given any consequences myself in terms of saying that's actually not on, then you're not getting enough information to perform well. So before you even start going down a performance management path with someone, you need to ask those 5 questions. So clarity, capability, capacity, coaching, and consequences. Have I done everything possible to actually help you be your best first?
So there you show that you have to adopt a certain level of humility and say this performance issue may have something to do with me. But what happens if you tick all of those 5 boxes that you just described? You've done the right thing by the employee, but they're underperforming. And possibly you're finding their personality a bit hard to deal with.
Let's actually, because I'm going to say there's 2 different ways you could go down this. So one part could be it absolutely is personality. And there's another part that says they fundamentally don't actually have the skills, but they think they do, and they really lack insight into the fact that they don't.
Oh, that's difficult. Yes.
Yeah. So there's 2 kind of different ones. So if we go back, and for those listeners that have then listened to the previous conversation we had about shrinking elephants, we talked about the lenses that we all wear over our eyes. Then every single person comes to any situation with particular lenses and particular ways of processing things. So when you've got someone where you go, oh, I find their personality so hard to deal with, I always come back to a first piece of saying, okay, take a deep breath and think, if I'm finding them hard to deal with, chances are they might be finding me hard to deal with. Because their style is different to my style.
And I give off micro impressions, that I can't control.
And we all do. We all do. No matter how good we think we are as actors, people feel it. They go, I can see it. I can sense it in you. I can see the tension. You don't like me. And then I don't like you. And our animal brains are constantly going, you're a foe, and it gets harder and harder. So coming back to, how do I first see you as a human being? How do I find out what I have in common with you that has nothing to do with work so that we can kind of find some way of connecting? Can I be clear even though you might drive me nuts? Our role as a leader is to be able to go, we have to regulate our own emotion. We actually have to demonstrate to others how you do that. So how do I take a deep breath and still be present and go, you are trying to do the best you can with what you have. How do I give you great feedback on the stuff that you're doing well? But if there is a particular habit, so let's say your habit is you love to talk really loudly and interrupt people all the time in meetings, and you're oblivious to it. You're going, I don't do that. I'm not, it's fine, or I don't think there's a problem with that. I need to be able to have a conversation with you, and I need to keep doing it from a specific moment in time, not generalising. So I come out of a meeting and I use what I call SBI feedback, so situation, behaviour, impact, and I go, hey, Jeff, we were in that meeting just before, and what I noticed was that there was more than 5 times in which someone was talking and you interrupted them and spoke. And the impact that it has on me is one of rising frustration, because I had this feeling that you're not allowing other people to talk, and it can make us all feel like you don't respect our views. Now, I'm sure that that's not the case, absolutely. But can you help me understand what was happening for you in that meeting that had you doing that? Now, you may respond going, what do you mean interrupted people? That was a great meeting. I was so excited. There were so many ideas floating around and I was just throwing my ideas in, and I'm going, love that. Love you doing that. But actually, the way you were doing it meant that you were interrupting others. So how about we have a chat about what ways we can actually help you really generate those great ideas that you love giving without it actually negatively impacting on the dynamic of the team. And then we can go into a bit of a chat about, okay, what does that look like and how do we do that?
You're making me nervous here because, I'm the interviewer. So am I interrupting too much? Perhaps the final question. What happens if the employee has absolutely no insight?
So that is one of the toughest things to actually work on from a performance management point of view. So you still need to keep coming back to this principle. They are doing the best they can with what they've got. And their view of the world, their view of the elephant is really, really different to ours. And if they haven't got that insight and then you're trying to tell them that they need to do something different, cortisol will be running rife through them. They're going to be feeling absolutely stressed. And so you need to actually have empathy for that when you start having conversations with people. Now, I mean, you could probably spend a whole hour on one specific case on here's all of the steps in how you manage those sorts of things. The key thing that I would say with it is you need to be able to keep coming back to what's the specific examples I can give people? How do I make sure it's not, hey, Jeff, here's this, here's this, here's this, here's this, here's this. which just, gets so overwhelming for people, so that you can then really help them to go, okay, I want to talk about X. I appreciate that you see the world differently to me. And it's a bit tough, isn't it, when I'm trying to go, this is what I want you to do, and you're not seeing it the same way. However, I need to find a way of helping you to actually recognise this, because much and all as you're feeling that this isn't an issue, actually running this business and how we're needing to do it, I need you to behave differently. So let's have a conversation about how I can work with you to do that. Now, again, there's that whole thing about people saying, well, I don't have that problem and it's not an issue. And there's that risk that they go, well, you're being completely unreasonable and this is awful. And I come back to, you have to keep finding ways of connecting back with them as a human being and recognise you're going, I know it's tough. I am trying my hardest to try and help you here. Sometimes you do need a third person as their support to come in to have some of that conversation as well. But one of the most important things, I think, to say through it is, as an individual, as a manager, just keep remembering that there are multiple truths, that there are different, views of the world, and your own frustrations can come through and you can end up talking in a way that actually makes the situation worse. So you just need to keep tuning into how you're feeling and when that tension's rising. I mean, I've had times with people where I've said, can we just take a 5-minute break for a moment? Because in trying to help you here, I'm feeling my own tension rise because I can see that we're not communicating effectively, and I'm worried that I might end up saying something that's actually really not useful. So I just need a 5-minute break just so I can take a moment, and let's do that and then let's reconnect. Or sometimes it's like, why don't we sleep on that? Why don't we sleep on that and come back tomorrow? So just tuning into your own emotions through that is really important.
That's conflict coach and author Genevieve Hawkins. Business Essentials Daily is a SoundCartel podcast. Producers are Nick Schildberger, Jeff Waters and myself. Technical production by Pete Letts. I'm Nicole Goodman. Thanks for listening. We'll bring you more Be Daily next week. SoundCartel.